ahead and start this off. Okay, so for my final, I did a prologue kind of text-based adventure game. And so everything that you do for prologue is just basically single line commands. And so here, once we start the game, I have a list of instructions on like how to move around. So we have like north, south, west, east, up and down to move around. And then you can like take items, drop items. You can interact with different objects that are in the room and observe. Just kind of right here, right below those instructions is like a little description of what like your character sees and like where you can move or what you can like interact or talk with. And some of the more dealing with people are like NPCs. We have talk, so you can talk to different people. You can intimidate different opponents into just surrendering to you instead of like having to kill them, or you can attack people as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys. So like kind of with this game, I have a bunch of different things that you can like pick up. So I have different swords you can pick up, and there's also like a prisoner that you can free, and you can like give him a sword as well. And so depending on.
Are you guys taping?
What?
Are you taping?
Yeah, it's all good though.
Sorry. Will you bring it back to me, Richard, when you're done? Thanks, guys. Sorry.
It's okay. And so like depending on what like weapons or if you free the prisoner you've had, the king will act differently toward you. So if I were to go toward the king right now, alone with no weapons, and I try and intimidate him, and nothing happens, and I can just try and keep attacking him, and then he just kills me because I didn't get anything or do anything. So let's go ahead and start this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some of the different items you can get. And so if you go into like the village center, you can talk to an old man who happens to be like glancing in your direction, and then he tells you about how like his son has been kidnapped by the king, and he's like, here are some coins, so I can take the coins from him. And then he tells me that, oh, I can go to the shop to buy a sword. So if I go to the store and I drop the coins off, and then the shopkeeper now has the coins, and I can't take the coins because the shopkeeper now has the coins. But I can take the sword from him. And then so let's, oops, over. So let's go release the prisoner now. So like once we enter the castle, it's like, oh, there's a basement. That's probably where he would be held. And so if I go south to look at the prisoner, the door's locked. So there's a table to the west of me, and on it I see a bronze key. So I can take the bronze key from it, and then I can go back to the prisoner, and then now I have freed him. And now I could, if I could drop the sword and give it to him, or there's another sword in the map that you can get, and then you can drop this sword to him, so you can have both swords when you go fight the king. But we should be fine with just this. So if we go face the king now and try and intimidate him, it's still not enough, so maybe we just need to attack him a couple times and then try and intimidate him, and then we'll attack him and then intimidate him. And now, so we have intimidated the king, so now he's surrendered to us. But whoops. And so we can now leave the room. Before, you couldn't leave the room until you've either killed him or he surrendered. But we could go ahead and keep attacking him if we really wanted to until we killed him off. And yeah, that's pretty much my game. So now we'll look at the code a little bit. So prologue is basically just a bunch of statements like true statements, and so um, here I keep track of where I am, the king's health, my health, the prisoner's health, whether the king is scared or not, and whether the king has surrendered. So if the king gets scared and you intimidate him, then he will surrender. But if you just keep attacking him to a certain point, he will surrender on his own without you needing to intimidate him. And also keeping track of the prisoner has been freed. This is kind of how I connected all of the locations with each other. And so it's like the armory is, if you're in the armory, you have to go north to the castle. And so right here, so the throne room, if you're in the throne room, you can only move out of the throne room if he has surrendered to you. Otherwise, you're trapped inside of the throne room until you fight him. So like here, the cage, you have to have the bronze key in your hand before you can go into the cage. Otherwise, it just shows that it's locked. So intimidate. So a lot of these functions, you have to just create multiple kind of like blocks for when they're true. So for the general intimidate, when you're doing it not in the throne room, we just say there's nothing to intimidate. If you're in the throne room and he has not yet surrendered to you, but he is scared, then you're going to retract that he hasn't surrendered, and then he has now surrendered to you. If he's already surrendered to you, you can't do it again, but if he is not scared, then he won't surrender to you. And how he becomes scared is, like I said, like how well equipped you are when you go to face him. So like if you have the sword and the prisoner's free, and like the prisoner has a sword and he's not scared, then he becomes scared. And like another one is like once he, if you have the sword in your hand, the prisoner, you didn't free the prisoner, but his health is too serious, then he will become scared. So depending on how many times you attack him with what you have, he will become scared. Oh, and so prologue, if you ever call is scared and you don't have like just a general case for it, and it doesn't meet any of these previously shown cases, it will just return false. And then like if, let me show where I call is scared. So like up here. So in intimidate. Oh wait, no, that's just checking if he's scared. Oh, that's all the way down from my Oh, so like right here, so when we're checking is scared, if this does not find one that is true, this entire statement will then be false, because this attack is only true if all of these are true. So if there is not a valid like is scared block, then this entire attack will be considered false, and then it will go all the way down to the generic attack, and then it'll just say there's nothing to attack. So this exclamation point shows that like if all of these are true, then this exclamation point says just use this attack, because if you don't do the exclamation point, it does every single true case, so it would do this case and this case. So that's what this exclamation point does, that says like just use the first exclamation point. And so these are all of the different like attack sequences, I want to say. So it's like so depending on like what type of weapons you have, or if the prisoner is freed, you do more or less damage to him. And then after every time you attack once, it is calling is scared, or if he surrenders, or is dead. And so is dead is checking for if the prisoner is dead, if you're dead, or if the king is dead. And so if you die, then you're just sent to a location that you can't move out of, and then you're just stuck there for the rest of the game and game over. And you just have to restart the game. What else is interesting? Here are all the describes for all the different locations that when you move into. Here's when you can interact with different things. So like if you're in the library, you can interact with something in the bedroom or in the kitchen. So when you just want to drop a normal item, usually you drop, so if you like want to drop sword, you have to have it in your hand, and I'm at location, so then I am able to then say drop item at location, and so now that item will be at that location for the remainder of the game. Except for these two specifications of sword and coins. So if you ever drop the sword and you're at the cage, so if you free the prisoner, then the sword will then be given to the prisoner, and now the prisoner has the sword. And the same thing with the coins when you're buying the sword at the store. They go from coins from in-hand to store owner. And so the reason why you can't like drop something in those locations and then pick it back up is because in order to take something, it has to be at a location. And so since I'm giving the sword to prisoner, and prisoner is not a location or store owner, and store owner is not a location, you can't take those things back from them. Also this, so like you can't even access the sword in the store until the coins are with the store owner. This is just converting all the directions to Go, and in Go we are given a direction, so like the NSWEUD, and so you are here, and then it tries to locate a path that corresponds to here direction there. So if I'm here in the throne room, and we'll do the library. So if I'm in the library and I want to move north, then it will take me to the upstairs. And if any of these, if it does not match, it will just fail, and then you just can't move anywhere. So yeah, so Prolog is pretty interesting. It's just basically, if you guys took discrete structures, it's just a bunch of like truth tables basically, and like when is surrender true, or when is when you're trying to move, when is move true, and then if it's true, then you do it. If it's false, then you just can't do it. I think that's about it. Are there any questions?
I guess I don't know what AI is.
The AI, it's just the king is always constantly checking if he is scared, and then if he is scared and you try to intimidate him, then he will surrender. And so Prolog is it's hard to do like a thinking AI.
Is Prolog like an AI language?
It said it was, but every time that I was trying to search different types of AI on Prolog, it was still just a bunch of truth statements.
Yeah, it seems like
you
have to write out every rule.
Yeah, it's just
and
that's the problem with declarative languages, because this is just it seems like it's just a bunch of checking. I think the reason why this is so good is it's extremely fast. So if I take the time to write out every true test case, it instantly finds exactly what it's looking for, and it doesn't have to search through multiple things.
It's not like polling, really.
Yeah.
It's more like just knows. Cool.
Anything else? All right.